I co-produced a Grammy award-winning track for Les Paul, and I got burnt out and a lot of anxiety. And I asked myself a really important question. How do I come back to my heart? How do I come back to the heart of what started this?
Barry Goldstein is a Grammy Award-winning musician, sound healing pioneer, and author whose life work sits at the intersection of music, science, and spirituality. But his journey didn't begin in healing. It began in burnout, when a career in major label music production led him to ask a simple question.
How do I come back to my heart?
On this episode of the Heart Leader podcast, Barry shares how he discovered the science of sound healing, why music is far more than something we hear with our ears, and how each of us can use sound as the oldest and most powerful biohack available to us. All right, Barry, I had the distinct honor of being introduced to you through a mutual friend, Jennifer K. Hill.
Yes.
And then I learned that we have another mutual friend who sits on our board of directors at Suivera, Melissa. So it was destiny that we were going to meet somehow, somewhere. But I'm so grateful it ended up to be now because you are local to where I live as well, and you do all of this musical magic. And at this time in my life where things have hit overdrive, and then I had some personal family things hit, the music and the magic that you created was one of the things that helped carry me through.
Wow, I didn't know that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
So I don't think it could have happened at a better time. And I first want to thank you to kick off this podcast for what you do and from the way the universe lined it up for us so that I could start out speaking firsthand about how what you create actually creates such calm and healing from just listening, let alone getting integrated into all of the coursework and things that you offer. So let's start with a testimonial firsthand.
Thank you.
From-
Cut. Here we go.
Right here, we're done. But then that led me to want to ask an even deeper question, which is, how does this flow through you? Because healing has to flow through someone.
Mhm.
Music is a means by which you do it. But how did you get to the space where you were open so that the healing can flow through you into the music?
Well, it came from real time as well in my life. So a lot of stress, a lot of challenges going on in being in the music business, actually. So I did not start out by doing this type of music. I was initially doing a lot of club music, dance music. I co-produced a Grammy award-winning track for Les Paul, who invented the electric guitar, for best rock instrumental. So again, it wasn't like relaxing music at all. But I started out as a rock musician. My dad bought me my first guitar when I was 14 years old, which talk about synchronicities. It was a Gibson Les Paul, who is the person I work with 30 years later. His name was on the guitar that my dad bought me. So it started for me in a necessity to rewind back to that 14-year-old, the 14-year-old who sat on the edge of his bed, thankful that he had this guitar and was just like writing songs and losing a bit of that within it becoming this plateau that I kind of set for myself. Wow, if I could become a major label record producer. And I don't know if that's ever happened to you, like in your life, right? Where you set this goal and you get there and it's not exactly what you thought it was going to be. So I went from producing, 4-minute songs that took 50 to 100 of hours in a recording studio, and the get to becoming a have to. In other words, wow, a privilege to do music, but now I have to deliver. And I got burnt out and a lot of anxiety, and I asked myself like a really important question, which was how do I come back to my heart? How do I come back to the heart of what started this? So I started by doing a search in on the internet at the time, which was a lot, not as much information. And I typed in music and the heart. And what I found was some really interesting things. One was that our heart beats at a relaxed state. That's okay. At about 60 beats per minute. And at the time, I was working with a lot of DJs, and that was their language, beats per minute. Like this club song's 130 beats per minute, and this reggae song is 70 beats per minute. So I knew the language. And I said, what would happen if I just set my metronome for 60 beats per minute? And I, instead of composing music, what would happen if I allowed myself to decompose to it? And that's exactly what you were talking about in terms of inviting something in that collaborative process, whether you call it God, the divine, the universe, whatever it is. It was like an open invitation to step out of the way and having to control it in, very detailed ways, which was what I was doing. Like a pop song, you have to have a verse, a chorus, they have to be catchy. Like what would happen just like letting it flow through me in an hour-long journey, and I found myself moving into these very deep meditative states while I was composing. So it was almost like, I was fully present, I was there, but I was kinda hearing melodies ahead of when I was playing them and being witness to it as opposed to, being the sole composer for it, and I just, found that I was moving out over a period of times of that stress and anxiety, getting better sleep, and just from this process that became very similar to painting. So I would, go through that hour and then I would add another layer or another color of sound. And because I didn't know exactly what I was composing, I wasn't writing notes down or anything. I had to really move intuitively to another part of my brain or another part of my heart and just allow myself to move into sync. And at the time, we weren't really talking about heart coherence or brain coherence, but that's exactly what I was doing was really I was synchronizing, I was in training with that tempo, and that was moving my heart to a relaxed state, which we now know has physical benefits and emotional benefits and spiritual benefits and mental benefits, all of that. But at the time, it was an experiment, and that's a part that weaves through even 30 something years later. That it's always an experiment. That was the biggest thing that I learned. It's like we know what we know, and the fun part and the sweet spot is the experiment of not knowing, and that's where the magic comes in and the connection comes in through the not knowing.
Yeah. And I love how you explain it both from the scientific and the connection, whether you call that spiritual or experimentation or
Mhm.
play, or it all kind of weaves together. And there's math in there, and there's music, and there's color. I love how you brought in the aspect of color as well. There's a new color that comes in.
Mhm.
And what I would love to do is break all of that down because we want so much to put everything in categories and boxes as humans so that we can understand all of it. This
Mhm.
goes here, this goes here, and let's not intermix these boxes. But what I heard you say through all of that is yes, those all put it into categories so we can understand it, but they all interweave. And so it's not all separate boxes. It's all in one beautiful box.
Mm. Yeah.
And we just need to label it to understand so I know the different layers. And then I intuitively play in the layers.
Yeah, and I mean, we have archetypes as humans too. Some people want to understand first so that they feel the safety in taking the journey. And very often that's where we are now as well, because science is a language that allows people to give it a little bit more substance for themselves so that they feel safer to take the journey. And some people are the other way around. Some people they don't want to know initially. They just want to allow themselves to take a journey, and then they want to know afterwards. So I don't think we're all the same in terms of our quest for understanding. And we are evolving and changing every day as humans. So it's not like a one size fits all in terms of prescriptive or prescriptions for people, because you're not the same person you were yesterday. So that music that helped you through that healing stage that you talked about at the beginning, you you might not want to listen to that music at this time in your life because you've moved through something. You've moved through some type of healing or some type of change vibrationally in your emotions that the same music might not support that, or it might. And it's a check-in, it's a check-in for each of us as individuals to realize that music's not something that's happening to us. It's just not something that we're listening to with our ears, but it's something that's happening in us as well. Our physical bodies are connecting with that external source of sound and vibration, but ultimately there's music and sound going on within us as well. And that's, the definition of resonance is when one frequency amplifies or magnifies the frequency of another. So it is interwoven with a lot of science and spirituality and ancient and modern. And, it's nothing new. Like this is nothing I invented. This has been around for thousands of years.
But the way that we utilize it, yes, it's been around for thousands of years, but sometimes the way that we utilize it without understanding it
Mhm.
could cause more harm than benefit, I have learned. And what you have done, and some of what I learned from your site and some of the details you sent me, is you've taken all of this and you've really started to understand the impacts of music, of sound, and all of those things, not only on the body, but on energy, on just how it all interweaves. What can you share with us? Because again, having utilized this now,
Mhm.
I went through something pretty deep over the course of December and January. And being able to listen to a lot of what you had sent me, just as far as your music, between the beats per minute and the frequencies that you utilized. So it's not just beats per minute, it's also frequencies that come through.
Mhm.
All of that allows you to reset not just your cells, which during stress have a huge impact, but also your energy that is
Mhm.
responding. How do you help people understand those types of things? And how did you come to understand it?
I came to understand it by knowing that it's there was a special recipe for me, and that was part of the experiment. And all of our recipes are not the same. And I give the example of grandma's meatballs, right? Like you might have the perfect recipe for them that's been handed down from generation to generation. That there's been information that has been given to you, right? That's the writing of it, the analytical part. The mind can read, understand it, place exactly that recipe in those meatballs, and then your family tastes it and go, "This is really good, but something's missing. It's not exactly the same as grandma's recipe.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same on paper." So, what are the missing ingredients that sometimes are a mystery that happens, and that happens in music as well, because the intention and the alignment of intention and emotion also went into those meatballs where she's grandma wasn't just like writing on paper, right? And reading it on paper. She was thinking of the family. Wow, I can see my whole family at the table together. And that brought her into a space of love where she was seeing them enjoying the meatballs and the whole family there. So is that information, is it contained within that energetically, within what you're feeling when you're tasting it? And it's the same thing with music. You can hear the same piece of music that was written, and 10 different artists have different interpretations of that. You don't resonate with artists 1, 2, and 3, right? You resonate with artist number 8. Same song, right? And I may resonate, oh, I don't that number 8, when she sings, there's a high pitched sound in there that doesn't resonate with me. So again, the same what we would think would be the same recipe, but ultimately there are things in there that we can't necessarily explain in words. So when I'm creating a piece of music, I'm not always thinking about the end user. I'm not thinking about the audience. I'm thinking about healing myself because that's where my process started. And when I'm playing with sound, because a lot of times it starts with me with finding a sound that just, oh, I really like that sound. Understanding that the music knows where it wants to go. I just have to follow directions and knows what it wants to end up. And so my intention and my emotions of in that place of composition as I compose is they need to kind of have a match together, the emotion and the intention. So if the intention is to then create a piece of music that is going to be loving and is going to reconnect me with my heart, then in that space, it would make sense that that I'm not it's not just a frequency on a keyboard, but I'm becoming the frequency, right, of what I'm seeking to create that resonant match. So I'm becoming love and putting myself in the space where I'm making sure that not just the intention, because I can have the intention of being in the space of love, but say there's something going on in my day and I really want to be in the space of love, but I just had a situation that was challenging to align and know that, okay, well, I'm not there yet. And I'm not going to place my hands on the keyboard until I'm there. And until I'm in that space that it feels like there's a resonant match between the emotion and my intention. And that to me, if you define, I define that when the intention and the emotion are matching, I call that authenticity. You're feeling the authenticity of, wow, I can feel that he was feeling love in that piece of music that I just heard. And the same thing with the singer, when you hear that crack in that voice and you're like, "Oh my god," right where his voice cracked, that's when I went to tears or I had God bumps because you're feeling that information. It's not just the words. And so that's a lot of times, I think we're oversimplifying a bit in the sound healing community, and it's not as just simple as frequency panaceas that are going to be one size fits all. It's really about your path and your evolution on a daily basis and what is going to be good for you and learning how to communicate to make sure that it's a match and learning how to have that conversation with your physical body when you listen to a piece of music. And that's what try to show people or teach them first in their sound healing journey if they're getting into sound. Like let's start with something really powerful that's not what you would consider music. Let's start with your heartbeat. Let's start with your breath because there's a whole symphony going on in here. And if you're not aware of that, how that interacts with the symphony that you're listening to, then you might not be optimizing your experience as much as you can. So it's like, looking for that radio station. Or we used to look for radio
Yeah,
stations, right?
exactly.
Well, if I could just tune in a little bit more, and sometimes we're just twisting that knob. Oh, now there you go. So working with music and sound and vibration, um, is really powerful. And sometimes less is more. Sometimes you just need a fine tuning, a small step to create a large movement. And I think it's similar to medicine. First, do no harm. Use the minimal amount that you need to create some type of vibrational upgrade, not the maximum.
Yes. And I want to drive that home
Okay.
because there are so many sound healing certifications out there now. It's like we hit some point, and everywhere online, I noticed them starting to pop up. And We are everybody do what makes you happy kind of approach. But sometimes we don't realize the harm that we can do with sound if we're not aware of the energetic mismatch or the frequency mismatch that it can hold, right? For our bodies and even for our energetic frequencies, right? And
Mhm.
going through all the information I got from you, which I'm so grateful for, and I can't wait to share with our community. There was so much that you put in there around understanding those impacts and having a code around do no harm, I
Mhm.
think would be very important. When I studied sound healing, it went deep. It was
Mhm.
very deep because you learn that Aborigines used to use didgeridoos to heal broken bones. That's
Mhm.
how powerful sound can be. It can go deep. And if you aren't aware of the impact sound can have, crystal bowl sound healers can actually crack teeth
Mhm. Mhm.
by not knowing exactly what they're doing with the frequencies. There have been reports and there have been, you can see it, you
Mhm.
can
Mhm.
find it. If we're not aware of what we're doing, and we can have the best intentions, but it can still come out in ways we don't understand.
Mhm.
What would you say to someone who has the best intentions, but desires to use sound in a positive way and maybe doesn't know how to do it yet and is out searching to understand how to utilize sound to do no harm, but to uplift others?
So it starts with each one of us first. It starts with the person who is doing right the doing the work has to first do the work on themselves, obviously. And so again, that conversation is really important to understand the conversation with you inside. So that's one of the first things that I was doing was having this experience where sound I was engaging sound and experimenting with to know what felt good in my physical body first, and knowing that that resonated with me. So ultimately, I came upon something that I utilize all the time now, which is a question that I started out using for sound, but then use it for a lot of things in my life as well. And it's a simple question like, how does this make me feel? Does it make me feel expansive or does it make me feel contracted? And so giving you a basis of that as well. So for me, and I had to define that for me, expansive like feels like this to me, like I'm in front of the ocean and by the ocean because I love the ocean and I'm under the night sky. Right. And if you look at this, like it creates this, what my hands are pointing to my heart.
Yeah.
Right. So it connects an expansiveness where I feel safe to open up to experience that and to connect to this unlimited field like of all potential. When I hear a song that does that to me, it shows up in lots of different ways. I might get goosebumps or I might feel emotional, but I feel like I'm having some type of upgrade. So if I started off, you know, maybe not depressed, but not joyful, right? There's a shift that occurs, and I could feel that in my body that something's changed. I feel lighter. That's another great word. And so understanding that, how my physical body reacts to music or responds to music. And then the other state is contracted. And it's the other way around. So instead of being open and my heart being expansive, it's like what happens on a cold day. Right? We go like this. Oh, it's cold in here. What's going on? Is we're protecting ourselves. We're protecting our heart, right? Something doesn't feel right there. So we get these signals. Our body's always talking to us, and our heart is always talking to us. And that's my book is called The Secret Language of the Heart. It's not a secret, but I think most people are having a one-way conversation. They're not speaking, but also listening back, or they're listening, but they're not asking. In terms of bringing that conversation. So for me, that's the starting point. It's not just emotional. How does the music make me feel emotionally? How does it feel in my body? physically. And most people think that music is something that happens with it really works emotionally and mentally, but there's this whole other thing going on. So when you're in that place of expansiveness and you're upgrading your emotions, so to speak. So if you're moving to a place of kindness, compassion, gratitude, right? Those those heightened,
Frequencies.
yeah, those heightened emotions. And what is raising our frequency? Is are we measuring ourselves? Oh, you're at 4.23 hertz now. You're at 8 point. No, we're not, right? So when we're talking about raising our frequency, we're really talking about exactly what you just said. We're bringing our emotions up to a state that is a higher vibration, and that's really what's shifting within us. And so when that's happening in our physical body, and this is like what you see a heart math organization and a lot of people studying heart math, what they studied and they're able to show that in EKGs of our heart, that they're able to see that when we're in these emotional states, that our hearts are moving into smooth and orderly rhythms. When we're in states of anger, frustration, fear, and guilt, we're not moving in those same smooth and orderly fashions. When we're moving in those coherent states, what's going on in our physical body as well is, if you think of the heart as like the conductor of an orchestra that's happening inside your physical body, and think of like your endocrine system, your lymphatic system, all that digestive systems are all different parts of this orchestra that is playing in your physical body. If they all decided that they wanted to play different tempos or different pieces of music, what would that sound like in your body? As opposed to the heart moving into those smooth and orderly rhythms. There's an agreed upon time and tempo, right? When your heart's moving into those relaxed states, your body's moving back into rhythm. So when you, like we use terms like, I'm out of sync today, right? That's what music has the ability to do. So with those emotions that are going on when those are elevated, what gets you there fast? What can really get you to a place where you're going from a place of a challenging situation in your day and shifting very quickly? It's music.
Yeah. Like the best biohack ever.
Right. I say it's the oldest biohack,
Yeah.
and it's low cost and it's not invasive for the most part, and very little side effects. So again, it's knowing, back to your question, I didn't forget your question. It's knowing first, if you're starting out on this path, start with the music within you and understand your relationship between you and the music. Don't just jump on board because someone said you need to use this tone or this frequency or that frequency.
Or this tool or that tool.
Yeah, exactly. Always question, always have your own experience, because that's where we need to go with this. We need to move out of it. Was a great conversation to bring people's attention to the power of this,
Yeah.
but we need to upgrade the conversation so that we can pass this on to a generation of same thing as with traditional medicine. We want more individualized medicine,
Yes.
right? Same thing with sound. We want more individualized sound. And so the way to do it is to understand that you're changing every day. And um, one frequency could be powerful to you and the other one might not be again the next day. So it's actually, you know, knowing that every experience you have is going to be unique to you, and it might move into healing in different capacities. We're not just healing the physical body. We're working with mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. So for me, I had to redefine even healing, what it meant, because when I started out doing this, which is very interesting, was I started this in probably the beginning of the 90s or the middle of the 90s, starting to do the sound healing part. Um, is that I had to redefine healing because my friends that I grew up with, like I grew up in the Bronx in New York City. So when my friends caught wind, like when I started putting music out at the beginning of the 2000s with this, and it was under the term sound healing, they're like, dude,
What are you
what
doing?
are you selling like snake oil? What do you mean like sound is healing? And I had to figure out like I have to be able to explain it to them so that if I could explain it to them, then I know I'm onto something because their perception of healing was watching Sunday nights, what was going on, within physical healings, right? When they would watch, the churches and what were going on in the 2000 and all that with physical healings, which are valid. That's valid to have that, perception of that might be all that healing is. But for me, it's about being able to release a block in any area. So physical, mental, spiritual, emotional. If you can release grief by listening to a song, right? Or you can, release a negative story that's going on from a situation that you can't get out of your head and your mental. And physically, yeah, if a song can help you move into a calmer state, if we can calm our body and move into that parasympathetic state, yeah, the potential for healing is there. So whenever we release a block, the potential for healing occurs. And so my conversation with them was, well, haven't you ever listened to a song and when you listen to it, you got really emotional? And have you ever released grief or used a song during a breakup? Or have you used a song in a happy moment of your life to make you feel better? Have you listened to a song when you had a headache and calmed down? So if the music can actually have effect on your physical body and that potential was there for you, wouldn't it make sense that we call that, let's just call that healing? And they understood that. And they said, "Oh, okay, I get it." And the same guys who like didn't understand it were friends of mine who passed from cancer, who listened to my music, to move them to that state 30 years later. So again, it's like redefining it and to move this forward in ways where we're sharing it and going beyond like just preaching to the choir, we need to adjust our linguistics to based on the communities that we're presenting to because not everyone's going to understand the chakra system, but they might understand, oh well, I think, what if we're holding some stress in our lower abdomen?
Yeah. Can I listen to a song and relax so the
Right.
muscles relaxed?
Right.
Well, and if we think about the way people do musical scores for movies, right?
Hmm.
It pulls us into the movie or it causes us to relax back and know that it's a more relaxed scene.
Hmm.
So if music does that to us with movies or even a TV show, right? It helps us know when to laugh. It helps us know when it's moving the direction of the scene. Why wouldn't it stand to reason that it does the same thing in life and helps us know when we can relax and when it's time to be productive or any of the other things, right?
Hmm. Yeah, well, it is the soundtrack of our lives.
Uh-huh.
And it's the same thing. I have an example on something I do that's called sonic branding for marketing as well. And I have the same scene, the same video, 20-second piece of music, but the only thing that changes in there is the music. And one of them is, it's a girl walking down the street. It's raining out, right? And when the music, I composed three different pieces of music. One is very haunting and almost feels like there's something about to happen. The other one's very heart opening, and the other one is sensual. The same exact pictures, but the music defines the scene and the emotions that we're feeling. And I show that same videos to doctors and saying, well, what's going on in our physical body in each of these? Is it possible when you're listening to the music that's haunting that you are starting to produce more stress hormones like cortisol? Is it possible that when you're listening to the more relaxing music that you're producing oxytocin or the cuddle hormone? And is it possible when you're listening to the more sensual music, you're producing dopamine, a reward.
Yeah.
So as well, our body. So again, it's music and our body. It's not just music, our mind and our emotions.
And that goes back to your point of we need to start to change the conversation
Mhm.
so that we know what we can experience when we're doing it within our own form, right?
Right.
And that's where the experimentation comes in. So if we start to change the conversation and we begin to be our own test
That's right.
and we understand, then we know if we're going to begin to do this outside, what that impact might be on someone else.
Right. Or invite them into the same space
Exactly.
of start minimalistically. Right. So again, I don't want people going out there and saying, okay, I experimented. And actually I get this all the time, and it's a little bit daunting. Someone tells me they laid on their sound bed for 8 hours, and they were, running low frequencies, which basically, a lot of the sound beds, some of them are really great, but some of them are just subwoofers. That you're, it's like really sitting or standing by a speaker, right? Listening to club music, you're really like listening to those low or feeling those low frequencies for 8 hours at a time. That might be fine for some people, but it might not be for others who are sensitive, or even on another whole level. Like my wife is a naturopathic medical doctor,
Yeah.
and she recently did a presentation that was very powerful. She asked how many people in the room do cold plunges, and 95% of the people raised their hands. How many of you have actually tested or done any CAT scans or anything related to knowing your heart health or knowing if you might have an aneurysm or blood clots in your body somewhere? Because there have been cases where people have actually have died from cold plunges because they didn't know that they had an aneurysm or something else. So again, right? It's not one size fits all for everybody. And it's the same with sound. Like, what if you have something in your physical body that we don't know, with that a tumor or something that is delicate in your body that could be affected by low frequency vibrations? So, like I said, first do no harm and start off minimally, see how it feels in your body and see how it's working with your nervous system. And just like we listen to volume, when something's too loud, we lower it. We know, we understand it, how our ears are telling us, no, this isn't comfortable for you. But your body has volumes in it also.
So, this is a question that I could not wait to ask you because you do have such a depth of knowledge when it comes to sound
I'm
and
not going to tell you who
frequency.
my hairdresser is, though. I have to keep some secrets.
Some secrets.
Yes.
When it comes to sound pollution and the impact of sound pollution on just us as humanity, what impact do you feel that has?
Again, I mean, each one of us is going to experience it differently. But yeah, of course. I mean, and we use the term all the time. There's a lot of noise out there, right? There's a lot of emotional noise. There's a lot of mental noise. So what kind of noise are we talking about? But if we're talking about like sound noise as well, yeah, there's frequencies that are that we don't hear that can affect us and can have an effect. And we don't know all of the effects yet. We're just beginning to really study more of these things and study like low frequency, in terms of even in using in cancer and different modalities. We're starting to use sound in different ways outside of just diagnosing, right? Through different things we're starting to utilize, histotripsy and other types of things that are being used in cancer for different treatments as well that are new, and they're seeing that these things have impact. But we need more research in these areas, and that's really the answer. Like I don't know everything. This is still a relatively new field, and I will say one thing that brought awareness to me, like, and this was I'm going to say like 2011, and this is a musical example. So I was mastering an album, And so when you're mastering an album is when the album is completely mixed. It's the final process in the sound that you're really working with, putting the polish on it and getting all the volumes same. It's kind of like the icing on the cake before an artist puts out a record. Not a record, sorry, anymore, but we'll just call it an
Back in the
album.
day,
Yes.
yeah.
And when I went to the studio there was a bass line in a song that was on the album that I suddenly could not hear when he started the mastering process. And I'm like, what happened to my bass line? Something that he had done with moving around of different frequencies in terms of bandpass filters, they're called, that can take out a frequency or add a frequency into into the music. And it literally the bass line vanished. And so I said, "How did that happen?" He goes, "Well, let me try this. I'm gonna do a filter sweep on any frequency below 20 hertz." 20 hertz is our cutoff of where we can actually hear frequencies. So when he did that and he cut off all the frequencies below 20 hertz, which we weren't hearing, but something was creating a cancellation in the track where the bass was disappearing when he had those frequencies in. So the ones that we couldn't hear, right, were affecting the ones that we could hear. And when he got rid of those, the bass line suddenly reappeared. It was always there, but there was some type of cancellation that was going on. There was some type of dissonance that was happening. And that really made me open my eyes and saying, wow, to your point, like what's happening with frequencies that we don't hear? Can they be affecting us in different ways? And if that's just going on in music, in an album, what's going on in my body was the real thing. Like what's going on um, when we're listening to music and experiencing different things.
Yes. I really think about that quite often.
Hmm.
And with your capacity to really understand this, and I can feel how deep this runs for you. It's you have to begin to ask yourself, how can I counter, just like you countered it with a filter? How
Hmm.
can we maybe utilize sound to counter it within our bodies? Are there different frequencies we can weave together to create our own types of filters that help us, right? These are I'm a quantum scientist by
Hmm.
nature. It's not even something I studied. I feel like it's part of my core essence. And I ask these questions all of the time because different waveforms can help, you know, move other waveforms in different ways. So how could we utilize some of the knowledge that you have and the way that you utilize sound and music and color and all of that to really help mitigate some of the impact we may have by things we're not even sure we're doing to ourselves?
Yeah, and the composition of the music as well is an important part. So, I mean, I never move into these questions in a place of fear or a place of or a place of harm or a place of protection. So my approach is that instead of protection, what would happen if we can move into a place of projection? So thinking of our hearts more as like as a film projector, right? That's projecting light outwardly into the field, right? And if we're if we bring in that awareness that I don't necessarily need to protect, but if I can project my light outwardly and I can move into a place of expansiveness, then I'm kind of moving above, a lot of the noise. You can move above the noise. And a lot of that is through your awareness of, again, your awareness of sound and your awareness of how that composition makes you feel and what you're listening to within that. And the frequencies are part of it. But you have to realize too that when I'm playing a keyboard or any musician's playing a keyboard, they're not playing one frequency. And it sounds very simple, but it's a big misconception when people start talking about frequencies. They're really talking about tunings.
Yes.
They're not talking about unless they are, right? They're talking more about tunings. So tuning a keyboard to like A440 is the overall tuning, or tuning it to A444 or A432. So when people say like, what do you prefer? A432 or A440 or A444? Like, what do you prefer? Well, it's not really about just listening to those singular tones, right? That they're asking me. They're asking me generally, like, which one do I prefer?
Yes.
What tuning do I prefer? But there's 88 different frequencies, right? Within that one tuning. Okay, now do you think that a composer who's like playing, who's being inspired, is going to know every frequency that he's playing within that song? They're all notes. I mean, and it could be written down. But in the compositional process, when you're in flow state,
Uh-huh.
I'm not necessarily thinking about what chords, what notes I'm playing. I'm just letting it come through. So the frequencies that are coming through are what needs to come through for me in that musical piece. Now, if I felt guided to tune my keyboard to A444 or A432 or any frequency for that matter. We're just scratching the surface because literally I can tune my keyboard to any frequency. I could tune it to a frequency if we find out that that there's a specific frequency that you want to utilize at 166 hertz, whatever it is. I can tune my keyboard so the harmonics match that. And that's really where I think this is going. Like, why are we limiting ourselves to the conversation of A432, A440, A44, all that? What if we really started creating individualized music based on what a person might need?
And what if we did?
Right. And what if we did? And we can. And we can. So that's what I'm saying is, as you see, we can go down a rabbit hole in this, that it gets more and more complex when you realize that it's not a single frequency we're listening to when we're talking about that. So realize that that composer has access to 88 notes, and he's not going to play things the way that I am, and I'm not going to play things the way that he is. And so when I'm delivering that piece of music and you're feeling it, are you just feeling it because it's A432? Maybe. I can't say no, or I can't say yes, because there's other elements in it. I can
Along with
say
your frequency, right?
right, exactly. You're feeling me composing an A432 with these specific notes I use, with my intention, with my emotion, and with a composition that is unique to that one piece of music that is not the same as any other piece of music. So if you listen to it in that respect, and you're just literally receiving it, you'll be able to tell. If you ask yourself, does this feel expansive to me? It sounds really simple. Or does this feel contracted to me? Or is this feeding? Is this nourishing me? Is this not nourishing me? It's similar, very similar to food, and I'll use the example with individualized medicine as well. Broccoli is great for people with cancer. Okay. That might help in some people's diets. It might be helpful that they're putting cruciferous things into their bodies, right? Whatever reason. But if that person is allergic to broccoli and is creating inflammation in their body, and that is going to challenge their immune system more, is it is it the same? So, is it going to be beneficial for them? Is creating inflammation for them? And so having these set things that are dogmatic or so prescriptive in nature that we're not willing to hear anybody else's experience with it is not conducive to the conversation of moving us forward. And what is that you are your own unique combination of physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energies that are going on with you. And some days you're going to resonate with one thing, and some days you're going to resonate with other. And you are an experiment in consciousness. And I never negate anyone's experience and will say, well, how could you have an experience listening to that song? Or I'm not here to tell someone that their beliefs are incorrect, because I think everyone has their own unique spiritual experiences for what makes music healing for them. And that is really powerful. That is something that I don't negate. I just don't say that it's a definitive thing for everyone. I say that's an experience maybe that's unique to you, or maybe it means something different for you than what it says it should be. Like this frequency is supposed to be great for shame and guilt, for releasing that, because that's how it's been defined out there. But maybe for you, it's not.
In general, it
Yeah.
falls in this category, but
Yeah. So I think it's like I'm not right or wrong. And I'm the first to admit that I'm constantly learning. And I'm looking at what is healing for me, and then how that ripples out to the world to help people. Ultimately, we're all healing ourselves first. It's like the mother, right? They say in the plane, make sure you put on your oxygen first. Like when I'm composing a piece of music, I'm putting on a piece of oxygen. I'm putting on the oxygen, right? Like
coming
I
over
need to
me
move
first, yeah.
today. I don't need relaxing music today. I need to move some energy. I need something more shamanic. I need something tribal today. And people, oh, I love that piece. Or someone's like, that's not like your normal music, or your relaxing music. No, because I needed to move today. I was behind a computer all day, or like during COVID, I've been in this room for like a year, right?
Yeah, I just wanna bust out.
I need some beats, and so it's again, I shoot the arrow and it's like it's gonna find the target of people who need it. I'm not concerned with where it goes.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for being willing to open the frequency bucket and dive into that because, again, to me, that is such a multi-layered thing. And individuals who watch this are very focused on, we have been doing a whole quantum sciences group of
Mhm.
discussions. And when we do, it is around how energy moves, not only through the universe, but also through us, like as
Right.
people. And music and harmonics and all of these things have a lot to do with that. But now I want to dive into the color that you.
Okay, but I just want to backtrack on one thing. So,
Aha.
I just want people to know that you know I do pick certain frequencies or tunings as well, but it's based upon me feeling called to do so, not by it being prescriptive. Like I have a whole album that's called the Heart Codes that I tune my keyboards to A444, because I had a spiritual thing come into my life where that meant something to me. And those triple numbers and the way they laid out on my keyboard when I was working with them, and I so much so to the place where I had a separate set of tuning forks made up with all of those frequencies, so I can put pure tones from the tuning forks directly in that piece of music, and it's called the Heart Codes. And that piece of music is probably one of my most popular pieces, because it's geared the intention was for me to move through layers of my own heart and to be able to unveil my heart in its fullest form in the compositional process. So yeah, I had specific frequencies I used, but I was guided to using them as an artist. And that's what I'm saying, and that's how I connect to it. And then, yeah, I research and find out, oh, is there a basis behind this? But ultimately, I'm an artist looking to heal himself first. And I just want to let people know: use things that you're called to use, use them to assist yourself, and use them to move you in some way, and you'll find that your audience will find you.
Okay, so where can we get the heart codes?
Yeah, I mean, the Heart Codes it's on, Amazon, it's on iTunes. You can find it on my website. Um, Dr. Joe used that piece in some of his meditations, as well. And yeah, it's a very multi-layered, beautiful piece of music.
Yeah. And I know that you've had the honor of sitting with some of the profound individuals in our space, So we'll definitely touch on that. But
Okay.
to me, you are one of the profound in our space. So I want to stay focused on you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
So when you get these flow throughs, such as using 444,
Mhm.
do you ever get the colors along with the codes, the frequencies?
Yeah, color, not as tied to color,
Okay.
as I am with sound. There are sometimes I see things in color, but for me, it's more about the sound.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, other people tell me that when they listen to it, like, that I've had this experience where when I listened to this, I was seeing lavenders or, whatever colors they're seeing with it or feeling with it. But yeah, it's not as much so part of my creative process. That happens with sound for me is like an immediate connection. And, it's also something that happens I feel as a collaboration now as I open this up on my spiritual path and also on the whatever I've learned through researching is that I understand that it's not just me creating on my own, that I'm bringing in or inviting in something beyond myself. And that was really the key for me is when you understand that you're connected to that and it's not just you in the creative process. Yes, as humans, we have our own signatures, our own tastes, our own autobiographical experiences around music or writing. You're going to have your style. But at the same time, where we started off, the gumbo, I think the spicy part is connecting to what we don't know and this unlimited feel, the potentials, what hasn't been created there is what I like to kind of bring in and realizing that that doesn't have to happen randomly. That doesn't have to be, oh, I felt energy in here with me today while I was composing this piece, or I felt so connected to, the field on this day. It's that can be intentional and invitational. Like when I invite God in, and that's just the word I like to use, um, is I know that I'm never gonna get, "Oh, no, I'm busy that day."
Sorry,
That
don't have time, Barry.
don't have time, and you know what?
Gotta step back.
We have a creative block
Yeah.
today, right? For me, nature is shows us that there are no such things as creative blocks. So if you ever have a creative block, take a walk in nature and look at a flower. There's two flowers next to each other. There's nothing identical or the same. They might look the same. And we do that a lot, right? We compare ourselves to each other. Well, that person's doing it, so I don't know if I'm going to do it. But no one has your signature. You're just like that flower. You're unique. And that starts with our heartbeats. Our heartbeats are like those flowers that God has created, right? That we all share a heart. We all have a heart, but none of our heartbeats are exactly the same. And that's why I always kind of come back to the heart because it's our home base. This is our home base of frequency. You want to get into frequency, get into the frequency, understanding the frequency of your heart. And I'm not just talking about the numbers or the measurement of the frequency of it, but getting to know your heart, connecting with your heart every day, feeling your heartbeat in your body. Like even when I'm doing this now, like I can feel my heart opening up and becoming more expansive as I just place my hands here. Because my heart knows, because we've been through a lot together, that when I bring my hands here, I'm not just bringing them to touch my heart. This is a sacred ritual that I'm going deeper, and I want to go inward. I want to connect with my home again. So if we have these experiences when we're wandering from home, which is what happens to us every day. You talk about noise, right? Noise is us wandering from home. And so this is where we find that connection, whatever it is. This is the center of our purpose and our mission and whatever you're here to do. But it's your signature beyond that. It's not a career, it's not a position. This is where your heart is speaking to you of how you can be of benefit of somehow. What are you here to share? What's your gift? And that, if you want to explore, I can I can not listen to any music in a whole day and just like do that and learn a lot, if we really start pulling back the layers.
I agree. When I first started my deep, deep journey, I spent an entire year just
Mm,
here,
there you
right?
go.
This is, to me, there's a reason if we talk about chakra systems, this is dead center,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
And that it's our lungs kind of wrap around the chakra, if you think about a chakra point, not technically your heart, but the chakra, right? So
Yeah.
all the air comes in, all the life force comes in and wraps around that chakra.
Yeah. And I always look at it that we have two pyramids. We have our lower energy centers and our upper, right?
Mhm.
They're pyramids, both pyramids. And the heart is the intersection of those two pyramids that actually help us balancing our masculine and feminine energy. So those lower energy centers connect us to those lower frequencies, right? Those bass frequencies, those earth frequencies, and they allow us to feel rooted and nurtured and safe. And these frequencies from here are higher frequencies that connect us to the heavens and allow us to understand that we don't have to control everything, that we have assistance, we have guidance, and yeah, that we don't have to know everything. Even the greatest of scientists, knew about that field. Einstein, would get ideas. uh, Tesla would get ideas. Mozart would get ideas that they couldn't exactly explain exactly where they came from. But when our minds are quiet enough to connect to that, we have the ability to bring them forward. And Einstein was a musician, so they talked about it in his family. When he had a block and he was so caught up in the analytical, he would pick up his violin or play chords on a piano, and they would hear him from the other room going, "Oh, I got it."
That was how he got his eureka moments, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
That's cool.
Someone
Again,
through
it's
music.
back to music, right?
Mhm,
You move things through waveform or frequency or
mhm.
music or however. It's amazing. I love it. I love everything about it. So you've established yourself very well as someone who not only has the educational background and the experience, but you practice within so that you understand it. You're your own experiment,
Mhm,
right?
exactly. Yeah,
Yep.
and it's ongoing. Like, it's never gonna stop. I'm never you'll never hear from me, "Well, I know this," or, "I kn" "This is what I know, and this is definitive." It's constantly evolving. That's the fun part. It's like, again, where we started today, like, you asked me how that started for me. My quest was, and still is, to reconnect with that 14-year-old kid on the edge of his bed, writing songs for the first time and being like, "Oh my god." Like this like the awe for me of creation is why I do it. It's creating something from nothing that didn't exist before. Like when creating a piece of music or a piece of art, that wasn't there like 2 hours ago, and now it's here. Like, that's to me is amazing. And songs, whether it's a song or we have the ability to constantly be creating, and it's not just artists, it's not just music or colors or writers. We're constantly creating our moments in our life. So the same principles, right, are not like limited. A lot of people think, oh, well, you're an artist, no wonder why you're so creative, right, or you're a musician. But ultimately, to be in the awareness in that heart space is to be able to create moments that weren't there either. When someone's challenged, you have the ability to assist them and change the vibration of and upgrade that vibration of a conversation in any moment.
Yes. The law of transmutation, right? A
Yeah.
higher frequency will always transmute the lower frequency if you can hold the higher frequency long enough. And
Right.
as you pointed out earlier, higher energy, if you look at it as emotion, if you stay in a joyful state, if somebody is not in a joyful state, eventually that will help them change their mood.
Yeah. Or compassionate state where you're just listening.
Yeah.
So ultimately, we are all composers. We're all orchestrating our lives and, conducting ourselves. in certain ways. See, all these musical terms are embedded into our life, you know, that they're they're ways to live. It's not just for me. It's not just like music isn't like art and entertainment. It's a way of life, and I'm sure like you in your experience of music pulling you through a tough state and or tough stage in your life, that it's like an old friend
Yeah.
that comes in and said, "Wow, I haven't talked to her in like 30 years." And yet she came in and knew me and was able to calm me down in this part of my life. And that's how music is to me.
And for me too, and I have defined playlists so
Awesome.
that I know depending on the stage or where I'm at in my emotional transition or my energetic or whatever we want to break it down as, it is that for me, where I know if my energy or my emotion is starting to drop and I'm feeling those lower frequency emotions, I have a playlist that I know can help me bring it up to the next point where I play the next playlist and it just stair steps me so that I can get back up to where I enjoy being in what feels like my expansive state, your beach moment, right?
Right.
Where I can feel that. And I was just, again, so grateful because yours is now a huge part of my playlist. And I know by experience and experimenting what helped me and how it moved me through.
Awesome.
So I this is where I want to get into your work
Okay.
and what you share with people because again, anyone who's listening to this can clearly see you know what you're doing and you test yours on yourself, which to me is the guide that I want walking me through the path, right? There's nothing wrong with acquiring knowledge and sharing knowledge. That's a beautiful gift too. But when somebody not only acquires knowledge and shares it, but then also uses themselves as the experiment, as you put it, and walks the path over and over and doesn't stop walking it, just keeps treading new paths to keep working out those muscles. I want you as my guide because I know that you know what it's like being down here in the trenches with me. And so I have a feeling a lot of the individuals who are watching this are going to say, okay, Barry, I want you as my guide. I want to understand more about how, if I'm looking for music, or I want to understand more about how to use music to heal or to expand so I can be standing with you on the beach.
Mhm, mhm.
How do I get to that? How do I find your book? How do I find your materials? How do I get to you? What can we guide them through? Walk us through everything that you offer from
Wow.
talks to I want to dive deep. So
Okay.
let's pick one point and then start the journey together. Take my
Okay.
hand and guide me.
Cool. Yeah, and also just to differentiate as well between knowledge and wisdom. So knowledge to me, and this is, it's a combination of heart brain, right? The brain acquires the knowledge, and we do that by reading and gathering information. We study it, right? And we acquire the tools. But the heart integrates that into wisdom and takes that and decides what works for each person in that. So it doesn't work the same way, but the heart's expression is through wisdom of that. And for me, yeah, that's the creation stems from that. So I would say when you're looking into moving into sound and helping, be willing to go go deep into the heart space with it, not just into the knowledge of it, but how it can benefit you, and your growth on many different levels, because a lot of people learn a lot of things, and I think that they're equally important, and there's music, a lot of music and things that are being researched and used in medicine, and that are based from knowledge that is really important, and everything from chanting, right? Science catching up to spirituality, chanting. We're seeing some amazing results of how that's creating limbic deactivation in the brain, and in Alzheimer's patients, how songs are, allowing us to access into memory, with Alzheimer's patients, and in Parkinson's disease. right? Where we're utilizing music to actually improve gait and balance. And I'm just going through this too because this
Yeah,
is
it's
knowledge
really
as well,
important.
and the importance of how we're applying the knowledge is important, and also in training of people who are having strokes and relearning to speak again through something called melodic intonation. So these are kind of where this field is going in the medical part, not just the sound healing part, but music as medicine is, I think, is really where um, the medical field is starting to understand this. And I just,
For anyone who doesn't know what entrainment is,
yeah,
can you just
yeah,
quickly explain what that is?
I should have done that about an hour ago.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, so it's exactly what I was talking about at the beginning with targeting my heart at a relaxed state of 60 beats per minute. So entrainment is when an internal mechanism synchronizes to an external mechanism. So in that case, the internal mechanism is our heart, which is a metronome in our physical body, is synchronizing with the tempo that is within music and has the ability to adapt to it. Yeah.
And we can even do that between two
Yes.
people, right? We can have
Yeah.
brain entrainment, heart entrainment,
Emotional entrainment.
emotional
I mean, we
entrainment.
experience emotional entrainment all the time,
Yes.
right? I mean, we just went through a Super Bowl. What do you think is going on there? Like when everyone is waiting for that final field goal to happen, like everyone's energy is in training within that, or a concert where everyone's clapping in unison, and the other way around, as well. That you can entrain to someone's lower vibrational energy too, if you're not aware of it. You can spend your energy in somebody else's lower, it's easy to feed into that energy.
Yeah. And the difference between entrainment and coherence.
Well, I mean, you can entrain to this dissonance as well, and that would be incoherent. So, in other words, you can entrain to someone who's angry, and then you get angry back, right? And so that is going to be incoherent. And again, the studies show that when you're in those states, your heart rhythms are actually moving in not orderly rhythms. They're moving in very separated, different types of rhythms. So
Thank you.
yeah,
Just helps to give everybody a baseline as we move in
yeah.
because
Thank you. Because
there's
I
a lot
just
of,
go like I'm in mic drop mode. So
yeah,
thanks, just pull me out.
just
And
like sharing knowledge, bomb, bomb, bomb. And I
yeah,
love it.
so whatever comes through. So I love that because no interview is the same that way. But yeah, so anyway, I think that's just kind of me pulling together knowledge and wisdom, and they both have important uses of them, in terms of understanding how they could be used moving forward too. There's many more studies that need to be done and could be used in modern medicine now. So
Yeah. And it's nice to see modern medicine beginning to pick up these things and science testing it,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, I just spoke at a conference in New York City in front of about 300 doctors. And this was like cutting edge new research. I mean, most of the science they were talking about was robotics, AI, all of the latest technologies. And I was the last speaker of the day at the end of like 9 hours of information that people got.
And they're glazed over, I'm
Yeah, they're
sure, at
glazed
this
over,
point.
like, "Who's this guy?" And I try to break the ice and say, "Many of you are MDs." I'm an MD as well, but it stands for musical director, right? And everyone's just kinda, like, looking at me, right?
Yeah.
And taking them into, like, the science of it, but also brief experiences, like, where we're chanting together after I was able to show them the science behind the Kirtan Kriya, which is, the Sata Nama, and doing that, singing it, whispering it, doing it in silence, and just for a minute or two, getting these doctors who are burnt out by the end of the day to join me in that, and then seeing the shift of them understanding that this is a technology. This is this is important. All this robotics and AI are very important. All these things that are advancing us, but who's taking care of the caretakers? So I said if that felt like a vacation for you in the 1 minute we did it together, you probably can utilize music in some other form and actually benefit your patients by benefiting yourself. So,
Yeah, and that's something you can do in between patients to reset, right? Because
right.
again, the energy you take into
Amen.
the room with you.
Amen. Yeah. And I mean, that's again, that can be done through chanting. It could do in a lot of different ways. You know, we have targeting brainwave frequencies and binaural beats. There's a lot of great tools out there as well. A lot of heart coherence exercises. But ultimately, yeah, you want to wipe the slate clean between patients, clients, anyone else. And a great way to do that is through the space of the heart. Because when you come home to yourself here, it's like you're taking a vibrational shower. You don't have to give your energy away. You can rejuvenate yourself.
Before you got here, I did the Gayatri mantra just to
Awesome.
clear between so that
Yeah.
when I showed up for you, it was in that grounded space of pure love, right?
Awesome. I can feel it. Thank you.
So it is. Our bodies have music, as you pointed out, and we can utilize that to reset. So, how brilliant that you did that. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. So anyway, reeling me back in from that last tangent there. Um, I think you're asking about how I'm sharing this, right?
Yeah, all of the different, because you are a multi-dimensional being and you offer all of those dimensions through all of many different lenses of experience. And I know that we have lots of individuals who watch this who are also multidimensional beings and enjoy taking part in lots of different programs. So, if you wouldn't mind walking us through some of the offerings that you have,
Sure.
and then we can talk about how they can access it.
Yeah. So I mean, just coming into my world per se, if you go, my website's the easiest way to do that, and that's barrygoldsteinmusic.com. And yeah, become part of my community so that you can come into events. There's lots of things that we do for free for people as well. And even like signing up for my email list, you get 3 pieces of music that so you can feel the vibration of what I'm doing and decide whether and how you'd like to move forward in terms of becoming part of, I call it the global sound tribe, you know, of inviting people into this safe space of sacredness and music. So that's a initial way. You can find me on YouTube. Again, a lot of tools, a lot of videos there. Many of you might have Spotify, as well as Apple, Amazon. All of those things are ways to find me. My book is definitely a great way to kind of get to know the work a little bit more. It's called The Secret Language of the Heart. It does go through heart coherence, brain coherence, the power of chanting, the power of songs, the power of playlists, using music to amplify your creative processes, becoming the DJ of your life, implementing your own music programs. Like the book goes through all of that. And my website will also link you to Acousticeuticals, which is what I'm calling music as medicine and precision sound tools that are targeting specific states, as well as what I do with in sonic branding for people and defining their own sounds based on music magnifying your mission. So similar to that, big N you see in Netflix and it's like makes you feel all giddy because you're watching your favorite show for a half an hour, whatever it is. That our businesses need to carry a vibration too. And so I work with people in finding their own sonic signature of what they want to sound like and how that ripples out into their mission. And again, you can all find that through website. My courses as well are on my website through a page called The Sound of Transformation. And I offer courses on how music can be used in a lot of the ways that we've talked about, ways that's discussed in my books, working with the energy centers. I'm trying to think what else. I am this year taking on a limited amount of clients for like private sessions, and that's working with people in fine tuning exactly what I said. Any areas that they're feeling like they may be blocked, they've tried other modalities, they've tried other coaches. Sometimes sound has a way of cutting through a lot of things that other modalities can't get to because it's hard to prepare yourself for sound. Like when we work with a lot of modalities and different therapies, our subconscious comes in and sometimes wants to bring in protection of the older vibration, whatever stories we have around that. And sound kind of cuts through that and doesn't allow us to bring our defenses up as much as we might with other things. So I'm working with people in that if they are interested in that, you would just reach out to me directly at medical and musical medical no, is it medical and musical? Musical and medical. Yes, sorry. Uh, at gmail.com. Yeah, one or the other, medical and musical or musical and medical, one of the two. And yeah, and the same thing, I'm taking on some mentees for people as well. So if you're navigating in the new thought transformation and want someone to work with you and guide you through a lot of the process of birthing something creative, your mission into the world, whether it's in the music field or whether it's just like birthing your next book, whatever it might be. I walk people through that and utilizing specific tools and working with accountability as well and getting that creative process down so it's second nature to you in terms of being able to tune in and maximize things that you want to create in the world.
That's
So same thing. And you would reach me through medical and musical at gmail.com.
you're in the flow when you can have those many plates spinning and still be sitting here as relaxed and present as you are, you know?
Well, if you think that I have a lot of plays going, you really need to interview my wife. So,
I can't wait to meet her.
yeah. So my wife is, I'll just give my wife a
Oh,
plug
yeah,
because she's
please.
amazing. So Dr. Denise Warden, and we met through vibration and frequency as part of her expertise is frequency-based medicine and also working with metabolic cancer patients and a researcher and a formulator and global educator. But yeah, she makes me feel lazy.
Oh my gosh.
She really does. Yeah. So
Well, I truly can't wait to meet her.
yeah.
I'm very, very grateful for you and everything that you bring into the world. You can tell that you just to say this, I think your arms just need to be like all the way out because you can feel how much it just flows through you. And this is going to be the moment where we name drop a little bit, just because if you're taking on mentees, th- these mentees need to understand that you have worked with legends in the industry from Neil Donald Walsh. Well, you name drop. I don't want to name drop for you.
I mean, I've been really blessed. I'm just going to start there with some of the books that I read that had literally changed my life. I've had the blessing of collaborating with those people, and I know that their work changed my life. So again, that's resonance, and you find people who you resonate with, and then your work becomes amplified together, and they understand the power of music to amplify message. It's important to them. So, yeah. So I've worked with Neil Donald Walsh on the 20th anniversary of Conversations with God. We created a beautiful piece. There you go. Yeah, called "The Invitation." That invites people to have their own conversation the same way that Neil did in his writing, which is really beautiful. Collaborating and currently collaborating with Greg Braden, who I love, brother from another mother, and we're working on an album. Greg plays flute, and there's some amazing collaboration together. And Dr. Joe Dispenza, as you know, I've worked with and continue to collaborate, and I've done music for probably about 50 or more meditations that he shares in the world, and also his breathing techniques. Dr. Daniel Amen, who is literally a pioneer in how we look at brain health and we've done a bunch of accompaniment albums for his books to work with his books. So processes that become part of the book, and I've done that with Anita Morjani as well. Within her books, there were experiential processes that we decided to create meditations for that were really beautiful. So they become another part of an offering of that. I've worked with Dave Asprey for his company, 40 Years of Zen, in composing specific pieces to assist his clients. And yeah, I think that's pretty much some of it. I've also worked with some mediums and Lisa Williams, who's an amazing medium, but also an amazing spiritual teacher, as well as Marcus and Sheila Gillette, who are part of the Theo group. So yeah, I've had a lot of different flavors in the bridging science and spirituality, you know, where I'll then continue to be blessed and working with new people all the time. Yeah.
Well, and I thank you for sharing their work as well. A huge part for us is we all rise together, right?
Yeah.
There's no sense of competition within the Heart Leader podcast or Suivera because it really, there shouldn't be really. The only competition you have is within yourself if you choose to
That's
create
really
it,
true. Amen. Yeah.
right? So if we look at each other as collaborators and we rise together, then we're all better for it. And when you talked about this being a light, right? The heart is the
Project
light
that
that
light.
projects out, then we can see each other as that and we're all projecting light out, then wow, look what happens. So thank you for projecting that light out so we could all rise.
Well, thank you. Thank you for a beautiful interview and some really great questions as well.
Well,
So,
it's not going to be the last conversation we have. I know that.
okay. Well, good. I'm going to take you up on that.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you. And thank you to your audience as well. And many blessings, and hope you got benefit from this.
We'll be sure to put Barry's information down in the show notes. So, all of those email addresses and links that he mentioned, we're going to put them down in there. One click, you don't have to worry. Until next time.